Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the meeting. So I'd like to remind everyone that this meeting is being recorded. We do ask that you please rename your Zoom name to your full name and the organization you're with, if you're able. And then if you're a resident, you can put the letter R. So for roll call, I'm going to go down the list as it appears on my screen. And when I call on your name, if you could just unmute and introduce yourself and say which organization you're with. And at the end, I'll be introducing those on the call from the Port of Stockton. Okay, so first up, we have Joe Carrillo.
Hi, everyone. I'm Joe Carrillo with SSA Marine. We work at the Port of Stockton at the Stevedore, or at the port.
Thank you, welcome. And then we have Chuck.
Good afternoon, Chuck DeYoung with H.J. Baker.
Thank you, Chuck, welcome. And then Katie.
Hi there, it's Katie Chamberlain, Baker QEA.
Thank you. And Archana.
Hello everyone, I'm Archana Agarwal and I'm with Starcrest Consulting Group, and we work with the port to develop their emissions inventory.
Thank you. And Chris Morgos. Chris, if you could unmute and say which organization you're with.
It looks like he's with Norton Lilly.
There we go. Yeah,
There you
sorry. Chris Morgos, Norton Lilly.
No worries. Thank you so much and welcome.
Mm-hmm.
And then Hector.
Hello, Hector Olivares from Catholic Charities.
Hi, Hector. Welcome. And SB.
Hello, good afternoon. Esperanza Vielma with EJCW.
Hi, SB. Welcome.
Hi.
And Esther.
Hello, I'm Esther Mburu. I'm with Restore the Delta.
Hi, Esther. Thank you. And then HB 67.
Yes, hello. This is Ruth Ann Walker with Marathon Petroleum Terminal.
Hi, Ruth. Welcome. And then we have Kyle.
Oh, hey, everybody. This is Kyle Goff with the California Air Resources Board.
Welcome. Thank you. And Mary Elizabeth.
Mary Elizabeth, resident, Delta Sierra Group.
Thank you. Welcome, Mary. And Margot.
Hi, I'm Margot Prouse, resident of the area and with the AB 617 group. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Margot. And Rachel.
Hi, Rachel Martinez Regan with the California Air Resources Board.
Thank you. Hi, Rachel. And then we have Ravi.
Yeah, Ravi Narayanan with HDR, engineering consultant assisting the port. Thank you.
Thanks. And then Ryan.
It's Ryan Bonrostro of Metroports.
Thank you. Welcome. And Shannon.
Hi, everyone. Shannon Arnold. I'm a consultant with Starcrest.
Thank you. And it looks like Stephanie, if you're connected to the audio, you could just introduce yourself.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stephanie Ng, and I'm a program manager at the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District. Thank you.
Thank you. And then with the Port of Stockton, we have Port Commission Chair William Treza, Port Director Kirk De Jesus, Jeff Wingfield, Deputy Port Director, Rhonda Nelson, our Director of Real Estate and Port Development, and then Jason Cashman, our Director of Environmental Affairs, Victoria Lucero, our Public Relations Coordinator, and Karen Romero, and myself. And I will turn it back on over to you, Jeff.
I did see Rhonda Nelson on as well.
Yeah, I think I did mention her.
Okay, good. Sorry.
Thanks.
All right. Well, great. Thanks everybody for joining us. We really appreciate your time. And again, this is a different day that we're used to. We are going to take off, and I'll mention this at the end. We're not going to do our regular scheduled December meeting. We're going to use this as the alternate, and then we're going to, based on everything we're doing with the EPA Clean Ports grant, we're not going to have time to meet in January, so we're going to take that month off. But we will be in touch as we gear up to implement the EPA Clean Port opportunity. So today we've got a good agenda. It's a little bit light, but we're going to be really focused on our 2022 emission inventory. So Starcrest is here to provide that update. And then also just I think everyone's aware, I did mention it on the AB 617 call, and it's probably the worst kept secret in town that we did get the EPA Clean Port grant for $110 million is the total. Federal side, the overall project is about 130 million, I believe, Daniel.
Correct.
Great. Okay. And so we were ecstatic to get that. It's a lot of work. Daniel and I have been really busy with the EPA already, just trying to get together and provide input on the work plan that they're requiring. And then we are also finalizing the agreement because there is rumors that some of this money, if it's not already kind of obligated, could get pulled back by the new administration. So that's the last thing we want to see. So we're moving as quickly as we can to get everything in place to be able to start that project. February 1 is our kickoff date. And Daniel, could you go through real quick just all the different aspects of the EPA Clean Port grant, what the equipment was? I think I've mentioned it here before. And if you don't have that right in front of you, I can go from memory, but just if you could go over kind of what the EPA Clean Port grant entailed.
Yeah, for sure. So the EPA Clean Ports grant was primarily for pollution reduction around ports around the US. So we primarily focused around a couple areas. First, around our heavy duty equipment. So forklifts, I believe we have some trucks in there as well from SSA, as well as our infrastructure for electrical charging. So we're looking to install, I think, around 47 new chargers around the port to support the 54 new vehicles that we'll be having. Along that, we'll be working with Marathon up in Martinez, that they will have a shore power system to help power some of their tanker vessels, I believe, Jeff, as well. And then we will also be installing solar and battery storage here at the port, so that way that the energy that is required is renewable and efficient. So we're very excited for that. And then we're also getting the electric rail car indexer for the Stockton Soda project that's coming online here in the next couple of years. So that will definitely help with the air pollution as the trains come by. So we're very excited for all of that. And as Jeff mentioned, it's about 110 million with 19 match, so $130 million total. We're looking for the agreement hopefully to be finalized early January. And as mentioned, we're moving as fast as we can.
Yeah, and that's a great project. There's three other aspects to this project, which one of which involves this group, and that is that there is air quality monitoring equipment that will be a part of the program, as well as putting together kind of an air quality monitoring plan. And that's what I'm going to lean on this group to try to provide input on. We'll probably start kind of really focusing in on that February or March. Just to follow up on previous meetings in February, we will also have Nautilus will come and give an update on their project. As most of you know, they are the floating, what's the word I'm looking for? Their communications. It's essentially
Data center.
Servers, yes, server data center that is at the port, at the very west end of the port. And so they'll be providing an update there in February as well. Sorry, I jumped out of order a little bit. Was there any questions on the other two aspects of the Clean Port program are some training, some local workforce development training, which we'll be doing in partnership with the Green Economy Lab. Some of you know Sandy Pavin, who's involved in that. So we're working on developing the curriculum to be able to train local workforce to be able to help us keep our zero emission equipment operational and reduce downtime from codes and different sensors that are extremely sensitive to both moisture and some of the harsher environments at the port. So that's a great opportunity for us as well. And then lastly, we will also be doing a global trade program for high school students as well that we're going to be working on, and that will be coming up in the next probably 6 months. We'll start working on that as well. But were there any questions as far as the EPA Clean Port Grant Award? Nope.
Just a quick,
Sure. Go ahead, Mary.
okay, yeah, so I found the audio first. Mary Elizabeth, and I was wondering if you could provide the full text of that award or that application, and then when you get your agreement all set, can you also make that available?
Daniel, you got that?
Yeah, yeah,
Full
we can send over the narrative. It pretty much details everything that we're gonna do inside the project itself.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, so I'm interested in like official documents.
got it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Is there anybody else who spoke up there or?
Yeah, SB has her hand up.
Okay, yes, SB.
So again, congratulations on this grant. This is amazing. And I think it's going to make a huge difference, especially on the workforce development side of things. However, I wanted to maybe make a suggestion if you don't have that already in there as part of the plan with the workforce part that you're talking about, the air monitoring, and then maybe some of the other components is if there's anything like in the works with Delta College or UOP or Stan State, so that, you know, as far as like, you know, you have a lot of opportunity here, especially with like on the solar, you know, maybe when they're doing the modeling, you know, there's students that are at that level that maybe as an internship or something along those lines. So, you know, I think that that's great. We need that, but I think a lot of times we have, especially the students that are either at our local universities, or people that are from Stockton that are at other universities. And at the local level, I'm sure you know everyone. Anyone that you don't know at the UC level, I'd be more than happy to connect you with them.
That sounds great. Yes, we'll the more the merrier, seriously, as far as this project goes. So yes, I will be reaching out to you as we kind of develop the team that's going to focus. We haven't even had an internal meeting on the overall project yet. Hi, Douglas.
Thank you.
We will get Douglas hooked up with the interpreters. But yes, as soon as we're going to put together a whole project team, and at that point, we'll kind of it's going to be a completely transparent process that we will keep this group updated on as we move forward, and hopefully we will keep the funding that's been allocated to the port with us. So yeah, we appreciate that comment, SB. One thing, I don't know if a lot of you got this email, but it was about an opportunity to apply to serve on the AB 617 consultation group. And I don't know if Kyle has any more information on that, or if there were thoughts of, have people already applied? It's just kind of an open question I had for the group who is associated with the AB 617 meeting. I don't remember it being brought up at the last meeting, but is anybody going to be putting themselves out there to join that group? Go ahead, Mary.
I submitted an application.
Okay.
Oh, heck yeah. That's good to hear. Thanks, Mary Elizabeth. And I don't have anything, specifically that I was planning to say about it, but yes, the consultation group is being revitalized. The application period, I want to say, has been extended out. I'd encourage anybody that wants to be involved with kind of steering the ship, so to speak, on implementation of AB 617 at a really high level to consider applying. If you have any questions, I'll drop my email address in chat here. Shoot me an email if you have any questions about the application process. I'm only kind of peripherally involved in the planning and stuff going on for it, but certainly if I can't answer your questions directly, I at least know exactly who to forward you on to. So happy to help with any of that. Yeah, and SB, I see you just said in chat your question there. I'll paste a link to the page for the applications as well. Give me just a second. I'll draw that stuff up and paste some stuff for y'all.
Does anyone happen to know what the time commitment looks like for this?
3 meetings a year.
Got it. Okay. Very good. Okay, I just want to make sure everybody saw that in case that was an opportunity that they wanted.
I'm raising. I'm holding my hand. I just lowered my hand, but I have something to say, Jeffrey. I wasn't aware about the program. Did they send off an email last? I'm probably overlooked it, but when that was sent out, submitted
I received it on November 7th.
Yeah, November 7th sounds about right. Yeah, I know we sent out email announcements about it. Yeah, that's not very good. Let me paste this link in a more comprehensible manner. Hold on just a sec.
Okay, and also my another question is that also the meeting also allows stipend for the people that are involved with the meeting, because I know that most of the majority of the people are there are working people, and also people are in the minority, which is kind of like involved in this our own free time. Is that also a stipend as far as the meeting goes? About that also? Thank you.
Yeah, it looks, just from what I'm reading, it says there's a $100 compensation per meeting and travel reimbursement.
And the location will be on Zoom, or is it going to be at the Port of Stockton, or where will it be at?
They will be at the Cal EPA headquarters in Sacramento, not in Stockton.
Oh, so you have to travel to go to Sacramento to go there.
They're saying the format may be in person or hybrid.
Okay. So if that's the case, then is the county willing to allow dial ride for people who are more immobile to be part of the meeting, like myself?
I'm not sure off the top of my head what other sorts of accommodations that we can make. There might be solutions that we can work out together. I'm really not sure off the top of my head. That is one such question I can punt to the rest of my colleagues here that are a little more directly involved with planning and implementing the consultation group meetings. But yeah, it is a California Air Resources Board led effort. It's like Jeff said, it's going to be at the Cal EPA building in Sacramento. Also, like Jeff mentioned, I know we are considering like a virtual and hybrid participation, so that folks don't have to travel all the way to Sacramento, especially for folks down in like Southern California who'd like to participate. But yeah, let me do a little bit of digging and get you some better answers than that.
Great, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And also, I would like to have the application also, please. Resubmit, please. Thank you.
Douglas,
Very
are you
good.
able to see the interpreters? Are you able to pin them?
Yes. Thank you so much. I guess I can. Thank you.
Okay.
Very good. Okay, and then moving on, we've got, we've been busy with a couple things over with the Boggs Track Community Center in Washington Elementary that we wanted to provide updates on. One thing was we were able to connect with the community center. We were able to provide them with a check for $10,000 to be able to put towards services that they have not received any funding for from the county. So we got a chance to go do that, and hopefully, you know, it'll reinvigorate a lot of the after-school programs that that they had to cut over time. And there's some other summer camp programs that's been impacted by not enough funding. So we're really hoping that this funding will help to reinvigorate some of those opportunities. And Julia and Victoria, if there's anything else to highlight on anything that you guys took away from the meeting with the community center folks.
I think you covered everything. We do have the turkey drive coming up that we help get together with the tenant association. That is on December 12th. And
Very
we
good,
get
yes.
100 boxes with turkeys and other holiday foods to folks in the community. This
And
year is the 25th annual, so it's a big commemorative.
Yeah, that's been going on for a while. So it's a good opportunity. Our tenants support that. And that's kind of one of their biggest missions is really to provide opportunity for, you know, to provide meals for Boggs Tract. So yes, we did that. We also talked to them significantly about sharing jobs board information. So they have somebody there who works in the community center that can help with folks filling out job applications and things like that. So we are providing her with the resources that we have to access the jobs board and help get other folks who are coming there looking for help information about opportunities here at the port. And then we've also been able to provide a lot of clothing and other household items to the community center. That's a huge need. They put out tables weekly to provide folks in need in the area there with clothing and things like that. So if there's anything that you guys have that you're cleaning up, getting rid of, please feel free to reach out to us or go to the community center directly to help provide that. And then, as you see in the picture, we also we've donated these soccer goals to Washington Elementary a couple of years ago. The nets were getting torn up, so we went over there, we replaced the nets, and in doing that we just discovered that one of the nets is in disrepair, and so we actually ordered new goals, and so they came in today. So we're going to be going over there and putting them together and setting up the school with soccer goals as well. And then Julia, do you want to talk a little bit about the Mary Elizabeth, go ahead.
Thanks. I just was wondering, you know, the Boggs Tract Community Center area goes east to the Western Pacific line. I think is something that was like, you know, it has boundaries to it. And I was wondering if you knew where that was.
Not off the top of my head.
You know, it's like they made up this area, you know, so long ago. So I just have that question. So if you come across it when you're, you know, working with the Boggs Tract Community Center, that would be awesome to share.
Sure. Okay. We can try to figure that. I'm assuming it probably. So we're a part of the Reclamation District Board. That might be another way we can figure it out. But yes, we can get back to you and find out exactly what the boundaries is, what they are.
Thank you.
Sure thing. And then Julia, did you want to talk a little bit more? Maybe just give a brief update on kind of the things we're doing for the teachers, with the wish lists and also any support for the holidays.
Yes, so the Port of Stockton Employees Association is working with the principal and the office staff to get teachers' wish lists. We're going to try our best to get as many things as we can, but we're in the process of doing that, and we're hoping to kind of time that around the holidays. And then we're also going to be supporting families, potentially with a Walmart or Target gift card. That way they can either get groceries or a couple gifts. So the school will help us identify, which families can really benefit from that. And then, let's see. And then, yes, we do have the clothing drive, the ongoing clothing drive, and we're going to kind of split it between Boggs Track Community Center, kind of depending on, what the items are. But you can email me. And if you could put my email in the chat and my cell phone number, you can text me. And then we're also happy to connect you directly with the Boggs Track Community Center to donate potentially like household items as well.
Yeah, one of the needs they mentioned specifically was undergarments, and so that seems to be a huge need over in that area. So we'll be trying to focus on that in the forthcoming weeks. But yes, anyway, it's been really well received. We're happy to help support those areas, and that's a brief update on what we're doing there. Is there anything else that I haven't hit, Julia, before we move into the emissions inventory?
No, I think we're good. I did want to introduce Pat Barrett. I missed her on the roll call. I apologize. She's with the Mineral Bats Community Garden. So welcome, Pat.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. We know Pat from her dedicated work at the cleanup activities. She's been a hard worker out there. So we appreciate that. Okay, with nothing else, then we can go into our emission inventory update for 2022. Just as a heads up, I mean, 2022 was a very different year for the port. And looking back, it probably wasn't the best year to model for emissions, but it'll give us kind of some good information. And one of the things that what made it so different was, I'm sure you guys all remember the supply chain crisis. And so there were ships everywhere trying to get into ports all throughout California. A lot of cargo we took that there just was no room at other ports. A lot, especially the container ports, were heavily congested, heavily backed up. And then the Port of Stockton became the same way. We had some ships that were waiting in the Bay Area to come up. We had some ships that were waiting at berth while we were trying to organize longshore to offload or load the vessels. So it was a good year for the port, but it was also very challenging just with being able to provide as much to provide the manpower that was needed to help offload the vessels. And so do we have the presentation?
Yeah.
Yes.
Looks
Okay.
all right. Yeah. So as I mentioned, yeah, we've developed a clean air plan with your help and support. Now we're working on emission inventories. I'm going to go to the next slide. We've done them the past few years. And then we've already kind of gone over the EPA Clean Port. But yes, very exciting opportunity for us, by far the largest grant we've ever received. And yeah, I'll turn it over to you, Shannon, for the rest of it.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you everybody for your patience getting these slides up here. This group is probably very familiar with what an emissions inventory is, but it's an estimate of the pollutants from major sources, both mobile and stationary. So we looked at ocean-going vessels, cargo handling equipment, rail, on-road vehicles, and hovercraft for these inventories. And the methodology stayed the same, consistent through all of the past and current reports. Each inventory includes a suite of pollutants. So we looked at NOx and SOx, HC, CO, particulate matter, and of course, greenhouse gas emissions that are tied to or responsible for climate change. We'll take a closer look at the breakdown of the results from each of these categories as we go through the results today. And emissions are estimated by looking at the activity and multiplying that by an emission factor. So this is going to vary across each source category. The total emissions are usually reported in tons per year. And the activity is going to vary by that source category. So it might be in hours if it's cargo handling equipment. It could be miles if it's vehicles, or gallons of fuel. Those are the most common activities. And then emission factors are really that mass of pollutants per amount of energy used. And those are developed and approved by the environmental agencies or groups. And it sounds like we have some representatives here today. So if we have any targeted questions about emission factors, it sounds like we'll have some experts in-house to answer those questions. And this is, what are the emissions used for? So of course, these inventories are a crucial planning tool for the port, especially since they've been voluntary. What's unique about Port of Stockton is that they've completed these inventories completely voluntary. A lot of the ports that just received the Clean Ports funding are using that those funds to complete some of their first emissions inventories. So it's great to see Stockton kind of ahead of that already. And so they can apply those funds to implementing more equipment or more solutions to continue reducing emissions. The inventories also help identify the important sources of pollution. So we can take a more critical look at where the emissions are coming from and where we can get the most bang for our buck, so to speak, of where to put more time and attention into reducing emissions. This also helps develop the air pollution reduction strategies, the programs and the policies that keep the port on track with continuing to increase efforts to reduce emissions. And it also gives us information for tracking progress and developing more reductions programs. So here we will be taking a closer look at the results, which I'm going to make this a little bigger. We might lose visibility of the image, but that's okay. This is what everybody cares about. So here is a breakdown of the 2022 emissions results. And what you can see here is across the top, you have the emission category, and then you have, or the source category going down the side here, and then the emission across the top. This table is a little complicated because you're seeing two sets of results. You'll see 2022 and a comparison to 2020. So looking just at the start, you can see particulate matter, PM10, in 2022 versus 2020 below it. So that's how you can kind of use this table. You see the total results at the bottom. And what we really want to hone in on and look at is we see a core reduction in emissions in carbon monoxide by 33% compared to 2018 emissions, so the first inventory we completed. But in general, unfortunately, a lot of the emissions did go up. But when you take a closer look at some of the source categories, you see that there are other stories within here. So cargo handling equipment, for example, there's been a lot of deployment of cleaner technologies that have shown some reductions. You also will see, so let's take a close look here. Let's look at harbor vessels, for example. There was a trend that we noticed in the 2022 emissions report where there was use of cleaner tiered engines. And so what that leads to is fewer emissions when the vessels are using cleaner engines. Vessel calls did go up overall. There was a 9% increase in vessel movements, 8% increase in tonnage. So that, this kind of relates to what Jeff was saying with the supply chain disruptions. There were a lot of vessels that came to Port of Stockton that typically didn't. and they were often hoteling for a little bit longer than usual. So there was more time idling, and so that led to an increase in emissions in some category areas. But the reductions that we do see are from an improvement in technology, usually a higher tier engine. That means it's burning fuel more efficiently. Let's see. Archana, is there anything that you would like to elaborate on or further explain since you were closer to the data in 2022?
No, I'll just reiterate, yes, as you can see, ocean-going vessels are the major contributor to all of the emissions. So and there was as Jeff has mentioned before, because of COVID-related conditions, the emissions for the ocean-going vessels were almost double. And we saw that when we looked at the hoteling time, the vessel spending time at berth, they were more than doubled at times on average. So that's why there was a great increase in ocean-going emissions for hovercraft and cargo handling equipment. Although if you look at the energy spent, which is in kilowatt hours, between 2020 and 2020, it increased more than the emissions increase, and for some of the pollutants like PM and NOx, and that is because of the fleet turnover or zero emission equipment for cargo handling equipment. And for heavy duty vehicles also, there was, even though there was a decrease overall, and it is all because of the shift from heavy duty vehicles to the locomotives and also cleaner fleet.
Thank you for that elaboration. Can everyone see this okay? Would you like me to zoom in further? Let me see, I'll just zoom in.
No, this is good. I can see it here.
Okay, perfect. Okay. We're going to look at the data now broken down in a few different ways just to help us digest it a little bit more. I'm gonna have to zoom out a little bit for this one. Okay, so this is looking at the emissions change between 2020 and 2022. So we're looking at the percent change overall. So some of the things that stand out, of course, are SOx emissions, and only 5% for CO and 8% for cargo. So with cargo increasing by 8%, like Archana said, we saw some doubling of emissions in some categories, but that wasn't the story all the way across the board. But this does show the overall percent change.
And you see the most increase in SOx because ocean-going vessels are the biggest contributor for SOx. So you see the biggest increase in SOx. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I'd say just even though the cargo only went up 8%, the big thing is that just going back to Shannon's point and my earlier point is just the hoteling time and ships sitting here waiting to get offloaded or loaded. And I don't know, Kirk, if there's anything else from that point in time that you wanted to add to clarify. It was a completely different time at the port than I've ever seen it, and a lot of challenges. Rarely do we ever have ships waiting at anchor in the Bay Area to come up to Stockton, and that was a regular occurrence then with everything that was going on.
Yeah, I think also, Jeff, because the inability for labor to travel, that stung us a little bit. I'm sorry if you mentioned it, but because labor couldn't travel, we did have times where we were short labor, so vessels were here longer than they should have been.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And when we're talking about solutions for vessels to reduce their emissions, right? It's usually shore power or the bonnet system, and shore power, has its limitations, and right now it's used for hovercraft, for tugs, but not every vessel has a fully equipped ability to plug in, even if a port did have it. And I know the bonnet system is something that the port is working on to implement, and that's where you would see a little bit more capture and control with your particulate matters and your NOx and your SOx.
Yeah, and we are working on that right now to develop and work with one of the two manufacturers of the bonnet systems to try to get a scope and kind of a business plan together. So that is moving forward.
Perfect. And here's another look at 2020 compared to 2022 emissions. And this is in tons per year. So we're looking at particulate matter, hydrocarbons, NOx, and CO2e. I'm going to try and zoom in a little bit to see if this helps. So what we do see, what's nice about this view is you can see that there were some reductions with cargo handling equipment with particulate matter with PM10. And this was due to some of the zero emission equipment that was implemented. So less fuel being combusted by the equipment led to a direct reduction there. Let's see, with NOx, it's almost an even wash with on-road vehicles. 2022 emissions went down slightly with Harborcraft, and we did see a positive trend with higher tier engines being utilized, as I mentioned earlier. So that's where you can see that reduction here. Let's see, and then of course the negative side, which is ocean-going vessels, and this is due to what we talked about with the increased hoteling time, where the engines are just idling. So that was that increase there.
Yeah, but Shannon, we can point out, even though there was so much increase in NOx, but there were some, for the first time, there were some tier 3 vessels that came to the port.
Yes, yes, definitely. So I do have that in the key takeaway section, but thank you for mentioning that.
Oh, okay,
now.
sorry.
Oh, no, that's good to mention. So typically trend-wise, what we had seen in the emissions inventory reports is we're looking at engine types across the board. And there were no tier 3 engines in the Harborcraft, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this was the first year that we did see that.
Not for harbor, it's ocean-going vessels. Yeah.
Excuse me, yes, ocean-going vessels. Okay, perfect. Okay, any questions about what we're seeing here?
Yeah, Shannon, there's a couple questions in the chat.
Oh, perfect. Archana, do you have visibility on those?
Oh, let's see.
Oh, I can go ahead and read it. So it looks like Pat is asking, if the tugs bring in the ships, don't they shut down their engines, and do they idle as they're being unloaded?
I believe they do use shore power once they are at a berth.
The tugs do.
Yes,
The
tugs.
yes. Ships, they have different engines. They have 2 different engines. So there is an engine that they need to keep running while they're in port. But it's just their auxiliary engine. It's not their main engine. So they can shut those down. But any engines that they need to operate the vessel for lights, just normal, any equipment that they have on board, if they have onboard cranes, they need to be able to operate those as well. Anything else from that you can think of, Archana, Shannon, Kirk, or Joe as well?
I've heard it compared to plugging in a small city if they are using shore power. So they have to keep, they have to keep their engines on to power everything that they have functioning on the vessel.
Yeah, they have to keep their the main engine is the biggest source of power and it pollutes the most, but auxiliary engines and boiler engines at berth have to be on for ship to do its work and operations.
And then Mary Elizabeth has a question. Do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Yeah, I just keep forgetting what you call those. I think it's coming in with the oil. Some oil.
Tanker vessels?
Tankers. So what percentage, thank you. Hopefully it'll stick. What percentage of the ships that come into the port are tanker ships?
They are don't vessel movements. I have to look into the inventory report. That is, Shannon, if you go, I'll look at the inventory report and I can tell.
Okay, so we can circle back on the answer to that.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So let's take a look at the port's emissions compared to the region's air basin emissions. So when we're looking at 2022 San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District emissions as a total compared to the Port of Stockton's 2022 emissions, we can see that the port's emissions only represent 1.01% of the total PM10, 0.03% of 2.5, slightly over 1% of the diesel particulate matter, 0.5% of NOx, 0.65 SOx, and 0.01% of carbon monoxide, and 0.04% of hydrocarbon tons. So this kind of gives you a nice visual breakdown too as you look at the data. This is presented in tons compared to what the region is enduring. Any questions on this?
Mary Elizabeth has a question. And Margot's hand is raised. Mary Elizabeth, do you want to ask your question?
I kind of got grading going on here with my pencil, but I asked what percentage of the area of the port to the whole air basin. So this is for the whole air basin that encompasses quite a large area. So what percentage, like when we're looking at, at this, I mean, I'm looking like this is like maybe like the tiniest mustard seed to, to a grapefruit.
Sure. We do have the boundary described in detail in the emission inventory report. Let's check in with Archana then. Did you happen to find the...
Yeah. Okay. So for the tankers, 27% of the port's ocean-going vessel calls were from tankers.
And that's pretty typical. I think it's usually I think it's usually 20 to 30%.
Yeah, in 2020, it was around 30%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask a follow-up on that?
Yes.
So those are the ones that the bonnets are going to be for, and I think, what is it, like 4 years out for those bonnets?
No, I don't think it'll be that long. We're not 100% sure yet, but I don't think I haven't heard 4 years to build one and get it into operation. Our goal is to try to get something in play by 2026.
Okay, and will those 2 bonnets or 1 bonnet?
One right now.
Okay, and so how much could 1 bonnet take on those 20 to 30%?
It will probably be guessing somewhere between 15 and 20%.
Okay, thank you.
And Archana, do you have handy the description of the port boundary from the 2022 inventory?
Yeah, I'm looking at, I'm finding it. For the, I'm looking for the vessel ones, but for the cargo handling equipment, it is the port's terminals and facilities where these cargo handling equipment are used. For harbor craft and ocean-going vessels, the boundary is from, I'm looking for the how much far further from the sea to the at berth. So that's what I'm looking, I'll tell you exactly. And for heavy duty vehicles, it is from the trucks operations that originate or end at the port facilities to the the freeway intersection. So I'll get back on the ocean going vessels. I just need to find it.
Sure. Okay. While you're looking that up, we'll take a look at the key takeaways here. So overall, we had an increase of.
Go on. Before you go on.
I'm sorry, Margot.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
So I appreciate Mary Elizabeth's question, because comparing the port to the entire air basin, I mean, it's hard to wrap your head around that kind of a comparison. The air basin is huge. But I'm wondering, even the emissions, I know you're looking at the emissions, and we're always trying to cut emissions. But and I didn't see it in the report, but I haven't gone through each page, but do you ever look at the actual air quality that's going on in the port area? Do you monitor that at this point in time?
We currently don't, Margot. But that is something that with the equipment that so when we did put in for the EPA Clean Port, we did include air monitoring equipment. And so that is something that if we want a snapshot, typically we'll look at the monitoring equipment that is in Boggs Track, that's at the port property, that's kind of just on the eastern boundary of the port. But I don't think that, and not to speak for Starcrest, I don't think they don't look at that overall.
Yeah, and that'd be a matter of time to see how it flows. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what we're kind of excited about with the air monitoring equipment, to kind of watch and see, what the differences are.
Thank you.
Okay, it's in the report. I'm just going to read the description from the report. For the ocean-going vessels and the harbor craft, the overwater geographic domain is within the San Joaquin Valley District boundary, which is the San Joaquin River from the confluence of the San Joaquin and Mokelumne River on the port. So that's what the boundary is. If you're going to ask me about how many nautical miles further from the berth it is, I have to find and let you know later.
I think the major point is just that, based on the size of the port, we're having a pretty significant impact on the overall basin compared to a lot of other land masses. I think that's the point that Mary Elizabeth was trying to get to. Is that right, Mary? Oh, okay.
And remember, we are.
What was that?
Absolutely.
Got it. Okay. Okay, and then Ravi in the chat asked, just curious, what impacts did the pandemic itself have on the data between 2020 and 2022?
Oh boy. I mean, Archana, I know that you can elaborate on this, but in general, this was a common theme that we saw with multiple ports. This was not just with Stockton, but it was increase in hoteling time, a lot of disruptions, ports having to reroute. So this was happening in Southern California and the Pacific Northwest, in
New
ports
York, New Jersey, yes.
Yeah, exactly. And please elaborate, Archana, if
no, you said it. Yes, yeah, we saw it everywhere, and it was a longer hoteling time or queuing or vessels staying at anchorages, and then disruption in how the goods are being moved, truck versus rail. So that was very common for every port.
And then Esther, do you have a question?
Yeah. I wanted to find out if with the new grant, the grant that was just given, whether there's a provision for real-time data monitoring and real-time data like releasing to the public. Secondly, whether you have projections for how the new grant and the new operations with like new EVs is going to affect the emissions on the port, at the port.
Yeah, I think we had to put the benefit overall in the application. And Daniel, I don't know if you recall that off the top of your head. I do not, but does that ring a bell, Daniel, for you?
Yeah, we have a prediction. I don't have it on the top of my head, but I don't know if, well, given our air quality monitoring, depending how we set it up with the air district, it might be real time, but that might be a separate discussion, Jeff.
Oh yeah. No, I was talking about the overall percentage. Yeah, for the air quality monitoring, I think our intent, and we'll talk about it a lot more in the future, is to have it real time on our website. So that's the thought and idea, at least when we were putting this together. No, I was just talking to you, Daniel, about the percentage emission reduction based on us implementing all of the equipment that was contemplated in the EPA grant.
Oh, sorry. Well, our fleet will be 90%
zero emission.
Zero emission, yeah. I don't know
I think
the
it's, yeah, I
exact
think
percentage though of reduction.
we can look at that, Esther. One of the things that we also tried to get in this grant was bonnet type systems. That was obviously based on the numbers that we're seeing as well. That would have been the best bang for our buck. The EPA would not fund anything that was less than zero emission, even though we tried to get them to include a bonnet system. But they in the end they said that isn't something that they could do. But we are in works, we are looking, we're looking beyond the first bonnet system at this point. But it has not been secured. But we can look and see in the application, and we can share that with you as well, Esther, and look and see if I know that we did some estimation of the overall emissions and the benefit of the project. So we can share that with you. I just don't have it off the top of our heads right now.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate that, and looking forward to the information.
Great.
Great. Okay, so we'll take a closer look at these key takeaways. I know we've gone slightly over time, but I think this is a great way to kind of wrap things up. So as we talked about, there was an overall increase in vessels of 9%, so a total of 220 vessel calls in 2022. The cargo tonnage, you can see here, just over 4 million in cargo tonnage, which was an 8% increase since 2020. There was also an increase in rail due to some major growth in the renewable diesel coming through by rail. And then, of course, we talked about the supply chain disruptions from COVID and how that led to an increase of throughput and accommodations of displacing vessels that typically called Southern California ports. They had to relocate and come up to Stockton. And then on the right of the slide here, we have kind of a snapshot of a story here. So there were select source category pollutants reduced between 2020 and 2022. So like we talked about with harbor vessels, when you look closely at, there's a table within the overall report that breaks down all of the emissions by source category in more detail than what we showed here. But I've referenced that table if you do want to take a look. You'll see this range of percentage of reductions, which it's a little bit confusing when you look at it in this range, but I included it here because you'll see, depending on if you're looking at particulate matter or CO or NOx, those categories will have a slightly different percent, but the lowest overall percent was 15, and the highest percent reduction in harbor vessels was 25%. So if you want to see kind of the details around that, please check out table ES2 in the full report. Same with cargo handling equipment. We saw the reduction of as little as 15% and as massive as 51%. And that was primarily in NOx, SOx, CO, hydrocarbons, and CO2e. Just to elaborate here, so in case you can't see this small font, this range of 15 to 25% reductions was in most pollutants except for SOx and overall CO2e from vessels. So we touched on that earlier. It was primarily due to the engines, but we didn't see it in SOx because it was an increase in hoteling time. Heavy duty vehicles, that range of reduction was between 7 and 43%, and this was primarily due to improvements in the engine tiers as well, so greater fuel efficiency.
And just to elaborate a little bit, I think we'll see the harbor vessels decreases continue to go down, hopefully. I know that Brusco has given a couple different presentations here at the POC, and they are making great strides in the effort into upgrading the engines that they have on their tug fleet. So we really appreciate their efforts there. And obviously with the cargo handling equipment and the new grant, you'll continue to see those go down as well.
Right. So I have a note here that Brusco has a fleet of tugs with Tier 3 engines and has 2 new builds with Tier 4 that will be coming online in the near future. So that's
exactly
very exciting. Anything else, Archana, that you'd like to elaborate on in terms of key takeaways?
No, you covered everything. Thank you.
Any other questions out there in the chat?
I think just that people are looking forward to getting the EPA Clean Port application. I don't see anything else.
Can I ask one more little question about something else?
Sure.
The, on the rail, we had an increase in the rail. Has that rail project been completed yet?
The double track and long lead double track and new rail bridge?
Yeah.
No, it has not even started. I think I've reported previously that we saw a pretty big funding gap from some of the escalation in prices for both labor and for materials. And so we had gone after 2 different grant opportunities. One was the RAISE grant, federal grant. The other one was a Port Infrastructure Development Program. We did not get either of those. So we are currently trying to figure out how we're going to move that project forward, whether or not we go after additional grant funding or scale the project. So we are in that process now, but no, it has not gone forward.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, thank you guys at Starcrest. I can't even imagine. I mean, not to say that, hey, we've got things a lot better than LA and Long Beach, but just to imagine what their emission increases were for the supply chain crisis has got to be pretty astounding. So anyway, I think that is it for what we had to share. Is there any other questions or any other comments or anything else before we wrap up? I do want to give a plug for our holiday party. It is this Saturday. You should have all gotten an invite, so we hope to see you there. If you did not, please reach out to us and we'll make sure you get that. But it should have gone out to all the participants in the port of the POC. So we hope you have a great week, and we will hope to see you on Saturday evening to watch the lighted boat parade in Stockton. So. Thank you all. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job.
Thanks, Mary.